I was out the other day sailing on my 7-meter slalom sail when all of a sudden the wind picked up by like 7 to 8 knots and I was way overpowered on the slalom gear that I was on. Does this sound familiar to you? I think every windsurfer at some point will be stuck outside on the water with way too big gear having to make it work. Whether you simply don't have smaller gear, the wind increases a lot throughout your session, or you're just too lazy or the car is too far away to change down to smaller gear, this tutorial will help you understand what steps you can take to make your too big gear work in way overpowered conditions. I've talked a lot in previous videos how you have to find the perfect tuning point where your gear is flying enough, yet you're still in control over your gear. Sailing in overpowered conditions really is about nothing else than that, only that taking back the control becomes much harder compared to generating lift. So let's get into the 5 steps that you can do to gain back the control. The first tip that I can give you is to make changes. Just stop, stand at the beach for a second and just adjust your gear so that you can gain back the control. Because if you do nothing, nothing will change, and you really have to change the settings in order to gain back the control over your gear. And this is the part that I actually struggled with myself a lot, because I know the feeling. You get to the water, you're out on the water, and you just want to go and have fun. So like standing still and changing settings is not the most fun part, but in the end this is the thing that really helped me progress in windsurfing over the years, by making these tiny adjustments and learning what trimming my gear in certain directions will do. And when it comes to the actual changes that you can make, it's pretty straightforward. You can lower your boom and you can move your mast foot forward. Both of these steps will help you decrease the lift of the board, so the board will stop flying around as much and stick a little bit more to the water. Because if the wind increases, naturally your sail will produce more power, so the board will fly more as you go faster. And because of this reason, it makes sense to change the settings so that the gear produces less lift overall. And these 2 steps really help with that. But also, do not overdo it. I would try with the boom to go like maybe 2 centimeters down if you feel way overpowered. And with the mast foot, don't work in bigger steps than half a centimeter, because tiny adjustments can already make a huge difference here, and you don't want to overdo it and make your board stick too much to the water, which can also be bad because then you will feel every single wave as you go. And the second tip is also about the gear, and it is to use longer harness lines. Because if you use longer harness lines, you will get a lower body position. And this in turn will also generate less lift and keep more pressure on the mast base, which means the board will fly around less. So I would really recommend here to use a set of variable harness lines so that you can find the perfect point and just play around with it. This really helps, I think. Tip number 4 is to adjust the downhaul and also the outhaul. Let's start with the downhaul. The downhaul basically you should put to the maximum setting that is indicated in your sail, but not go beyond that. Because if you put to the maximum setting, you will allow the sail to breathe and release the wind in the top, making it more controllable. But if you pull too much, actually, the sail might become unstable. So I wouldn't go above and beyond with a downhaul and just apply what is recommended as the max setting. The outhaul can make a huge difference in overpowered conditions. Because if you pull the outhaul, you basically take out the profile out of the sail. Because the sail generates the power by having the profile. On the leeward side of the sail, the wind will flow around the sail faster than on the loof side of the sail. And this pressure difference is actually what generates the power in the sail. So if you take away the profile out of the sail, at least to a certain degree, you will make the sail less powerful. And I have the feeling if you do that a lot, you can basically change the feeling of the sail to be like a 1 meter smaller sail. So if you're really feeling overpowered, I would recommend to pull a little bit on the outhaul, and this will give you a whole lot of control back. Okay, in the first couple of tips we talked about the gear setting, and now the final tip is to actually commit. And what do I mean by that? Is to not just let the sail pull you over your board and just kind of hover over the board, because if you do that, actually the lift will increase if you stand upright on the board. And you want to be really far outside, use the long harness lines that we talked about, and keep the most amount of body tension that you can. Because by giving this much body tension, you will not allow the board to fly around as much and tailwalk as much. So here I think especially the leg and the core strengths are the main points that you need to train. And if you train that off the water, it helps even more to have better windsurfing sessions overall. I know it can be scary to commit and actually get in the locked in position when you're sailing way overpowered, but you have to try to do it to get the control over your gear. If you just hover over the board, you will tire out really quickly because the sail will just move around, the board will move around wherever, and it's really tiring. So this is the last tip that I can give you. Commit to your stance and keep the most amount of body tension. Alright guys, these were the 5 simple tips to help you gain back control in overpowered conditions over your gear. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate if you became part of the community, subscribe to the channel, leave the video a like if you found these tips helpful. Thanks to all my Patreons, and I will see you again in the next video.